Hello, my name is Rudy Lama, and my grandfather founded the Tony Lama Company. He started it as a shoe and boot repair shop right here in the USA, in El Paso, Texas, in 1911, and he grew it into a multi-million-dollar business. His hard work and innovative experiments with manufacturing techniques and old-fashioned hand craftsmanship earned the company fame throughout the world. The fact is, Tony Lama is the brand most people the world over identify Western boots with, and styling like this made the company a household name. Did you know that Tony Lama Sr. is designated as one of the founders of the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame in Colorado Springs, Colorado? He was honored posthumously because it was the Westerner, the rodeo cowboy, that became the backbone of Tony Lama's many successes in the marketplace. But to really appreciate a fine pair of Tony Lama boots, you have to take a tour of the factory and see what goes into the making of every pair of Tony Lama boots. So join me as we see a pair of boots made from start to finish. And once you see the amount of natural materials and the workmanship that goes into the making of every pair of Tony Lama boots, you will appreciate the great value they represent. And here is where our boot making process starts, in our leather warehouse. Our buyers search the world over and bring us the highest quality leathers they can, and we select the appropriate leather based on our customers' desires for color and type of leather, and we're ready to begin making a pair of boots. Our exotic cutters are some of the most highly skilled employees in our industry. They take very expensive leather and they're very careful to cut it so that we get maximum yield and maximum quality. Having cut the vamps, or the foot part of the boot, out of ostrich leather, we now proceed to cut the tops out of some fighting goat skin that's been imported from Europe. We also cut pull straps, and we cut all leather linings and other components that we'll need to manufacture our pair of boots. Our assembly process begins with the cementing of the tops to our top lining leather. After the tops are cemented to the top linings, then we come to our computerized stitching department, where we apply the fancy top stitching to the boot. Besides adding a decorative element to the boot, the top stitching helps to stabilize the top long after the boot has broken in and you've been wearing your boots. Part of our company's success, of my grandfather's success and my father's success, is that we have over the years done our best to combine traditional boot making with the latest technologies. This is one example of our latest technology, computerized boot stitching, where we stitch 12 tops all at the same time. The leather lining for the foot of the boot has already been sewn onto the tops. The vamp, or the foot portion of the boot, the ostrich leather in the case of our boots, is now skillfully placed and precisely sewn onto the tops. The counter, or the heel portion of the ostrich leather, is also sewn onto the tops of the boots. The front half and the back half of the boot are now carefully matched to each other, and then they are sewn together inside out. Next, the boots are carefully turned right side out. The pull strap has been previously assembled. It's inserted into two slots that have been cut into the top of the boot. Then it is stitched and reinforced. Now, let's recap the steps we've been through so far in making our pair of boots. First, we cut all the leather for the tops, the leather for the foot or vamp, and the leather for the counter or the heel portion of the boot. We also cut all leather linings for inside the top and for inside the foot. You know, a true sign of a quality piece of footwear is that it's made out of all leather. We also inserted a piece of stiff leather, vegetable tanned leather, on the inside of the heel portion of the boot. This will be shaped into the shape of your heel so that it gives you support once the boots are completed. We have the shell of the boot, and the next step is perhaps one of the most critical in making your pair of boots. We select the last. This is a last. It is a polyethylene form, and it's shaped just like your foot. But the last determines the size, the shape of the toe, and how high of a heel your boot will take. The insole is next attached to the bottom of the last. 3 nails are temporarily inserted all the way through the last. These will be removed later in the manufacturing process. The insole provides a bed upon which your foot rests once the boot is completed. And it also provides a foundation upon which the whole bottom of the boot is built. Humidity is added to the boot, and then it is very carefully stretched by hand over the last. This is one of the most highly skilled jobs in our factory, and it is critical that the leather be stretched just so that it conforms itself to the shape of the last and will fit the foot properly, but so that the leather fibers do not get damaged. The beauty of an all leather piece of footwear is that the fibers of natural leather are such that once they are wet and stretched and they dry, they truly conform, they rearrange themselves into a new shape. They lose their memory and they will forever fit the foot properly. Most of the nails that he's attaching the upper to the insole with are temporary and will be removed later in the manufacturing process. The welt is a strip of leather, and it is attached to the boot by sewing through the welt, through the leather, through the lining, and through a rib on the insole. The boots have been allowed to dry overnight, and as the leather dries, it draws itself tight against the last, giving us an exact fit for your foot. The next step is the application of a steel shank, a hardened piece of steel under the instep. The steel shank will give your foot additional support in this area. A hard piece of plastic is also attached around the heel portion of the boot. The bottom of the boot and a pair of genuine leather outsoles have been prepared with an adhesive. The outsoles, cut from the heart of the hide for added durability, are cemented onto the bottom of the boot and molded with pressure. The outsole has been nailed to the boot around the heel portion with a row of nails. It has been rough trimmed to the shape of the bottom of the boot, and we are now with our sole stitcher, who stitches the sole to the welt with a heavyweight cord. Using a freehand motion against a very sharp set of whirring blades, our edge trimmer now trims the edge of the outsole and the edge of the welt to its final shape. Whereas the back of the outsole has been held in place with nails, and the front portion has been secured with the outsole stitching, the center part of the outsole needs to be held in place with a row of brass nails and a row of wooden pegs. These will serve not only to hold the outsole in place, but to keep the shank, the hard metal shank, in a stationary position once you wear your boots. The nails are brass because in that way they won't rust when the boot gets wet. And the purpose of the wooden pegs is to hold the boot in place even after the outsole gets wet. The leather fibers will expand and contract as they dry and as they get wet, but the lemon wood that is used for the wooden pegs expands and contracts at about the same rate as the outsole fibers. The 3 nails holding the insole in place have long since been removed. And now we remove the polyethylene last from inside the boot. The bottom of the outsole has been inked and dyed, and now as the heel is attached by inserting a series of nails, threaded nails, from the inside of the boot, through the insole, through the outsole, and into the heel. The heel is shaped to its final shape using a progression of sandpapers, starting with a very rough grid and proceeding towards a smoother grid. The top edge of the hard plastic heel rand is also trimmed for aesthetic purposes. The edge of the heel has been inked, and now, using friction to melt the wax, and then polishing brushes, the bottom of the outsole and the edges of the sole and heel are brought to a high gloss shine. Our touch-up artists now clean the boot of any dust or foreign material that may have adhered to the boot as we were manufacturing it. They touch up any small flaws in the boot, in the leather, and they apply a paste coat, which will act as a binder for the final polish. Now we shape the tops of the boots, first by putting a blast of steam inside to soften the leather fibers, and then the boots are put on a top forming machine, which, according to the size of the boot, stretches the top out to just the right size. Every pair of boots coming out of our factory, though now complete, must pass the watchful eye of our final inspector before it is cleared to be sent to stores on its way to our consumers. Cardboard inserts are placed in the boot to prevent it from getting smashed during shipment. Each pair of boots is individually packed in its own heavyweight box, and the boots are now finished and ready to go to our customers.